Welcome to the Left of Str8 Show, your one-stop destination for intriguing conversations with extraordinary individuals who are boldly navigating life outside the conventional norms. Our host, Scott Fullerton, is thrilled to embark on this journey of discovery with all of you. The Left of Str8 Show, we believe that every person's story is unique, and it's our mission to showcase the diversity of human experiences. We bring you the untold stories of fascinating people who identify as LGBT+ and allies, pushing boundaries, breaking stereotypes, and making a positive impact in our communities. On this show, we bring you a diverse lineup of inspiring guests, from activists to artists, and entrepreneurs to entertainers, and everything in between. We dive deep into their personal journeys, discovering the pivotal moment that has shaped their lives and careers. You can expect thought-provoking discussions on a wide range of topics, from LGBTQ rights, social justice to arts, culture, mental health, and more. Our guests are change makers who share their insights, challenges, and triumphs, igniting conversation that promotes empathy, understanding, and love. So whether you're part of the LGBTQ community or an ally looking to expand your knowledge and show your support, the Left of Str8 Show is for you. Together, we can build bridges of understanding and acceptance, celebrating the beauty of what makes us all unique. So sit back, grab a drink, and get ready for the show.
Alrighty, welcome back, listeners, to another great interview here on the Left of Str8 Show. I'm your host, as always, Scott Fullerton. I'm always excited to bring celebrities and personalities from our LGBTQ community and straight allies on the show. Today, I have a treat for all of you today with two interviews in one. Journeying from the bustling heart of New York City, we have an extraordinary culinary genius who's been tantalizing taste buds across the Big Apple. Luke Deardurff is here. And alongside him, an individual who's been paving the way for many in our LGBTQ community with his trailblazing organization, Cleaning Closets. Mr. Jonathan Mayo is here. These two gentlemen aren't just making waves in their respective professions, but they also share a bond that dates back to their college days. Of course, I became familiar with Luke for being on the latest season of Spring Baking Championship on the Food Network. He did a pretty damn good job. We'll talk about that in a bit. He's also been on the show as a bonus segment with another Baking Championship alumni, Tom Smallwood, where they made some delicious cookies for you loyal listeners of the Left of Str8 Show. When I reached out to Luke after his run on SBC to set up an interview, he told me about his wonderful friendship with Jonathan and his organization that is really helping in breaking down stigma in our LGBTQ community. I'm excited to talk to them both on what they're up to now, so let's dive into it and unearth a beautiful narrative of friendship, food, and fearless advocacy. Please welcome to Left of Str8 Show for the very first time, Mr. Luke Deardurff and Jonathan Mayo. Guys, how are we doing today?
Hi. Right? I know, makes me sound fancy.
I'm excited to have you on. I mean, Luke, we've talked a little bit on social media. I'm a huge foodie fan and watch all the Spring Baking Championships and saw you go to town this year. So that was kind of fun. And then when you introduced me to Jonathan, you've been doing some amazing work in the past year. You're still kind of involved somewhat. So I thought it'd be great to have you on together. So thanks for recommending it, dude. Luke, great job.
Absolutely. When I did my research into your podcast, I was honored to be invited. Like Johnny, like what he's been doing is like this oral storytelling. I got into immediately at all. So.
There you go. Well, we're going to have some fun with it. Let's always start with the first two questions I ask all of my Left of Str8 virgins. First question is, tell me a little bit about where you grew up and what kind of a kid were you, Luke?
I'm sorry, I was talking over you.
That's all right. Where did you grow up and what kind of a kid were you growing up?
I grew up in Columbus, Ohio. My family was from Belle Fountain, so it's a little bit smaller town, a little bit country town. Me growing up, I was shy, but also, I don't know how to say it. Like, I was shy and I loved to delve into anything art related, so I was always drawing or like in the corner of the room doing some kind of craft project. but then I was also like wild and running around and loved to be included in the group or bossing my cousins around. So they didn't listen. I just like to boss them. So
Nice.
but yeah,
Jonathan, what about you?
Oh Lord. Okay, so I was born in West Virginia to a hillbilly mom and a British dad, and grew up in Kentucky in Shelbyville between Louisville and Lexington. And was kind of actually a shy kid, to be honest, until I did theater in the 8th grade, and it just really broke me out of my shell and led to where I am today, to be honest. Yeah.
Nice. I love it. And let's talk about your LGBTQ journey. You're both out and open, proud members of our LGBTQ plus community. Luke, when did you first kind of come out to yourself? And when do you feel you kind of found your LGBTQ tribe finally?
Well, I came out my freshman year of college. I like it was kind of weird. Like prior to freshman year, I didn't connect any of the dots that I was gay. It was just like I'm different. I knew that. And I was just like, I tried having girlfriends. It was all like cute holding hands and like a lot of heavy making out, but nothing ever went any further than that. A lot of heavy petting. But and I got to college, and I actually remember, and Johnny knows this story. Like, I saw Johnny one of my first days on campus, and it was like he had this long, flowy scarf, and just like stomping down the sidewalk, and I was like, there was something in me that was so angry about what I was seeing, but it had nothing to do with Johnny. I realized it was all about this image that I realized I connected with, but I didn't know why, and I was very angry at that part of me. And then that first semester, I actually, in the marching band and in the band program in Moorhead, one of my best friends was Johnny's roommate. So that's how I met Johnny, and quickly realized I was like, oh, this is my tribe. And yeah, ended up having my first boyfriend, my first experiences, and Johnny was there to tease me throughout the whole thing.
Yes.
Nice. From a little Gaby, Johnny was there. I love that. John, what about you? When did you kind of first come out to yourself, and where did you feel you start founding your tribe?
Sure. I feel like somewhat similar. I had everybody else telling me I was gay, or before we knew what gay meant, they were telling me I was girly and feminine. And then it was probably the junior year of high school that I really came out to myself. It just clicked one day, like, oh, maybe everything that everybody's saying is true, but in this little town, I didn't want to come out to people. So I waited, about 2 years until freshman year of college, and even partway through that first semester was still trying to figure myself out. I remember one of my theater friends asked me, she's like, "Oh, are you gay?" And I was like, "I'm determined." And she's like, "Okay." And then clearly I was, and then clearly, I met Luke, and we all became a tribe together. My roommate, him, and a couple other friends really just kind of came out together, honestly. And I'm glad that we had the support of each other, because it would have been a lot harder if we didn't, for sure.
That is awesome to hear. And I mean, so many times we kind of go through all these friendships back and forth. What's the secret to you guys being able to stick together and kind of be still beside each other these many years later?
The teasing.
Distance. No.
Jinx, okay, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I think that communication and just knowing, I don't know. I don't know. I think just us being ourselves and us discovering ourselves together just bonded us early on. And then, as I was telling you
Yeah,
before earlier, that we, became roommates sophomore year. So I think that really kind of triggered us being best friends for this long.
That's
I
awesome.
think, and we've talked like very early on, like I grew up in the church, and like I said, had not ever even considered that I might be gay. And Johnny had already kind of started down that road, at least within himself, before college. And then I had been through some life experiences with my family that he started going through with his family in college. So it was like this moment where we were kind of leaning on each other.
Mm-hmm.
And just like we've always we would always be able to just like sit up and talk for hours, and we still do the same thing. We'll just call each other for like no reason and just chat, and then it's like, okay, I gotta go on the set. We love you, bye. Like,
I love that. And Luke, let's talk about your culinary journey. I mean, you went to school, I think, for like art and jewelry design or something. How did that kind of slowly evolve into your interest in the food arts?
well, it all was like, yeah, I wanted to be a jeweler. I was trying to do all of my prerequisites in undergrad for jewelry and metalsmithing. At the time, there were only a couple like alternative arts colleges in the country that had a full jewelry program, and they were pretty expensive. I did not come from a family with money, so the decision was like they didn't want me to go to a strict art school. They wanted me to have liberal arts, have a full-rounded education. So um, the decision was to go ahead and do all the prerequisites and then take all the jewelry courses. So I did my freshman year. Then when I came out of the closet, that didn't land so well with my religious upbringing.
Mhm.
And so my father and my stepmother, whose house I grew up in, they actually told me I wasn't allowed to come back home after I told them I was gay. So I spent my sophomore year at my living with my mother, who was very accepting, and like just not being able to afford to go back to school. My dad wouldn't co-sign on the loan. I lost my music scholarship because I decided I wanted to focus on art. And so then I just had to take some time and figure out what I was going to do next. And I met my now husband at a bar in Columbus, Ohio. We were talking about what I was going to do in the future. I was working at Hollister, and I was like, well, I'm cooking all the time. I learned how to grow vegetables and fruit from my dad and my grandfather, and I was just like, I have this passion for food. I'm thinking about going to the hospitality program at Columbus State. And Christopher was like, if you're doing anything with food, you're not doing it in Ohio. You're moving to New York. You're going to do culinary school here, and we'll figure out the rest. So
Nice.
I ended up basically getting my first baby credit card, and I used that to move to New York. Um, and long story short, my first culinary school I was supposed to go to didn't end up happening. I worked in the city, just odd jobs for about a year and a half, and then found out about a work study program at the Institute of Culinary Education. They don't have that program anymore, but that was really that was my door into the culinary world. I was able to work for the school for a certain number of hours, and when I finished that paid my tuition. So then I was working full time in a restaurant, doing savory at J while also going to school. And when I came out, I was able to just attack.
That's an
No,
awesome story. We talked, I think, on social media about you being from Columbus. I'm in Northeast Ohio, about 2.5 hours away. And it's such a weird dichotomy here in Ohio because Columbus used to be like the number 3 gay city in the world after San Francisco and LA. But then you can drive down. I know me driving from Akron, Youngstown to Columbus, there's billboards, marriages between one man and one woman. It's real kind of a strange kind of state, right?
it really is. I drove back. I guess it would have been January of 2021 to surprise my grandmother for her 90th birthday. Um, and just so she's in Northwest Ohio, and driving there was just like the number of Trump flags. Like one apparently isn't enough in your yard. You have to have one every 10 feet. So like I remember like at one point pulling the car over because I just was like I felt so uncomfortable in my own home state. And I kind of had a moment where I was like, I'm no longer from Ohio, I'm from New York.
It's a wild thing. I'm in, like I said, I'm not too far outside of Youngstown. It's still very countryish here. We have a lot of cornfields and stuff, and same thing. Trump sign about every other
Mhm.
cornfield. I hear what you're saying. And Jonathan, let's talk about you. I mean, you went to school for theater and everything, and you're back to that we're going to talk about later on. But where did this feeling for advocacy came in that kind of drew you to hearing other people's LGBTQ stories? What drew you to advocacy?
I think the seed was kind of planted when we had all met each other in undergrad because we, weren't hearing those stories. I mean, we have to remember this is 20 plus years ago and also in Kentucky, right? Where we went to school. So, like, you weren't hearing these stories. And I know, right?
How
um,
5 years ago, honey.
it's rare that I will admit
Freshman
that,
in
okay?
college.
You can bleep that out later, okay? But, like, I think that kind of planted the seed, but it wasn't until, I moved to Chicago and my ex used to work a lot in nonprofits. And so I would always volunteer at the different nonprofits that he was working at. And eventually, in different communities, but then I found that, I wanted to, advocate for those communities that I was a part of, especially in other communities, but especially, the LGBTQ plus community. And that's kind of what I think really just kind of triggered that advocacy was just kind of volunteering and knowing that connection I felt with these people of the struggle that they felt and the feeling they felt of not being able to share their selves,
And talk about that. What's the importance of telling these coming out stories? I mean, we need to be able to share our story. And I think that's a great way to do it and sharing these common bonds. Talk about what that meant to you to kind of hear all these different stories.
Yeah, so especially in terms of like cleaning closets, my oral history project, I, was thinking of the next project I wanted to do. And then I was having a conversation with my mother, and this was years after coming out to her. And she had told me that at first she blamed herself for me being gay. And this was something I did not like. I was so caught up in my own coming out process that I didn't realize that my family and friends were going through a coming out process too, just from the other side. And so I think hearing that story and knowing my own story, it just really led to me realizing the importance of hearing stories, especially from both sides, because then you can find that common ground. And then, here we are, just Clean Closets turned 11 this month, actually. So 11 years. Yeah. So I think it was really just kind of hearing the other side that made me realize how important not only our own stories are, but coming together with other people to find that common ground.
That's fantastic. Thank you for sharing that.
Mm.
Luke, let's get into Spring Bacon Champion a bit. That's how I came
Yes.
across you. I mean, huge foodie here. Spoiler alert, he won, guys. Let's talk about this competition because it's really kind of, you're in there, right? I mean, this is a real thing, right? Talk
Yes.
about the experiences. What were kind of the highs and what were kind of the lows for you?
Um, I mean, the entire competition was a blast. It was really like getting to meet all the other bakers, and there was not a single bad apple. Like everybody, we got along so well. You know, being able to have we would do our big group selfie after every day that we got to compete against each other, and it was like, I mean, our group dwindled down, but I don't know, you can't prepare for it. Like I thought I was gonna be prepared, and then you go in, and it's like you've got somebody that's specializing in chocolate, somebody that's specializing in buttercream. Like everybody had such amazing skills, and they might have focused on one or the other. And it was like there were things that I felt comfortable going in. Like, okay, I've been an executive pastry chef for 10 years. I've been in New York City pastry for 18 total. I'm like, I'm good. And then I get in there and I see Clement with his French entremets. I see all this like amazing chocolate work from Josh, and I was just like, and Christian just like Speedy Gonzalez throwing out like the amount of stuff that man can throw out in a short period of time. I remember like day one, very first episode that we filmed, I was just like, I'm not gonna last. I was like, these guys are insane. Like, and I really had to go home and just be like, take a moment, really like give myself a pep talk.
Call Johnny.
Call Johnny.
I was wondering about that because you won that first kind of heat competition before the main drag, and then you were kind of middle of the pack for a while there. That had to be play on you. Win the first elimination heat, I guess, not the first one when someone goes home, but the first mini challenge. And then it's a couple of things before you get your win. Does that kind of, you have to keep giving yourself that pep talk every day? That'd be tough.
I mean, I don't know. I told myself going in that the only person I was really competing with was myself, and that I just wanted to make sure. I was like, on day one, I was like, I just don't want to go home first. And then the second time, I was like, I don't want to go home second either. But it was really like, how do I want to say, like, it was humbling. It was, it really taught me all the things that like I need to brush up on. I need to revisit. And at the same time, like I've spent so many years being afraid of being in front of people. I had gone to the auditions for Top Chef Just Dessert years ago at season 1, and they had told me to come back for a callback, and I chickened out. And I've been approached and asked about coming on to some of the other shows in the past, and I was like, I'm not ready. I've had stage fright for so much of my life, but then being on the stage and like being in front of cameras and competing, I was like, actually, I really love this. Like, I wanted to do it when I was a kid. I wanted to be on TV, specifically on my dad and I would watch Food Network all the time. And so, like, all of a sudden to be there, to see the behind the scenes, to see, like, just how everything operated, that was beyond a dream. I told him when I was like, doing more. Like,
For someone who loves attention, I'm surprised to hear you say you got stage fright.
I love that. I mean, I've been a food same way. I was Food Network addict forever. I had some of the first Food Network stars on the show back in the day, years ago, and everything. So I am hugely addicted to it. Now, when the show starts airing, I hope you're not one of the ones that have to go into the comments and everything. How do you keep how do you keep it secret going on? And I remember kind of, because I do read all the comments, being a fan of the show. And I remember they're going, I can't believe that Luke was the big winner because Christian knows. I said, well, you look at your stats. I mean, they each had 2 wins. Clement and Christian and you each had 2 wins. Christian
Yep.
had a lot of highs, and I think you and Clement each had 1 low. But it's like it all comes down to that individual competition. Each week you're making what's that, right? So how do you kind of keep that in your head?
Well, it was like, of course, we're our own worst critic. So, you know, after everything I made, I was like, I'm going home. And then I would like, once we would get down and do the reviews, I was like, there were a couple things that I was just like I remember the pie cake, the imposter cake.
Oh, right.
I felt really good about that going in, and then it was received really well, and I think that was one of the ones that I won.
Yeah, it is.
Throughout everything, I was just like, sorry, my ADD. Johnny's used to this.
Try having a conversation on the phone with him late at night, okay?
That's why you guys are such good friends. It's 3-hour conversations on the phone just to get through 2 topics. I got you.
Exactly.
That's all right. Remind me, we were talking about the specific. Remind me the question.
Well, we're just talking about how do you keep the thin skin when it's actually airing? How do you keep it secret? And how do you keep yourself out of the comments?
I didn't read the comments until it was over. So that was the easiest way to keep my head. I was just like, I mean, maybe it was also easier because I won. I was like, I already did it. Like, I don't need to read what I don't care what you think of me. It did, when I did win, and I started seeing some of the negative comments that came out, I woke up and I had 4 of my fellow contestants all texting me, telling me, don't pay attention to what people are saying. You deserved it. And then I was like, well, what are they saying? Then I spent like a morning starting to go through it. And then I maybe spent like 15, 20 minutes. And then I was like, you don't need to read this. I was like, I know what I did. I know that every challenge was an individual challenge. I know I busted my butt to get through each one. And I also know, like, the only time I was in the bottom the entire competition was during the semifinal.
Right.
I was like, there were only 4, so 2 of you had to be in the bottom. Other than that, I was never in the bottom. So, unlike real life.
You did a fantastic job. It was so fun watching. Like you said, it's an individual competition by competition, and so that's why I was kind of surprised at some of the comments. But it's like you won that thing that last. I mean, I think everyone did a fantastic job. But congratulations! I'm so happy for you because that's just awesome. We're going to talk about what you're going to be doing for that in a bit. Let's go back to Jonathan here. I mean, Jonathan, let's talk about closets for a second. Been doing this now for quite a few years. You've done some portraits, a project with your sister that's exciting to talk about. You've been doing Pride, which I understand you're going back to this year. Talk about some of the highlights from that organization.
Sure. So, and just to let people know, it's not officially a nonprofit organization, but it is an ongoing oral history project. And it's, I think the first one was obviously a highlight because I had been working with this one person, in academia previously at I was a summer camp at the Goodman Theater here in Chicago. And so she had all this experience with oral history. So I reached out to her. She was working at UIC at the time and reached out to her just to get some advice on, doing an oral history project, and went to her and she was like, I love this idea of doing it from both sides of the closet door. So let's do it here. So, and then I found from another theater thing that I was volunteering for at the Y in Evanston, one of my co-volunteers was like, oh, I'll volunteer and help you, interview people. So we interviewed about 25 people in that first iteration. And I knew that it was important, the work that I was doing, when I realized how many people wanted to volunteer their time to help me. And at first, I thought we were just going to put together, a stage reading of a script that we had created from these 25 different stories, Luke's being one of them in the original, him and his mama. And realize it can't be just a one-time thing because there's so many stories to share and there's so many different ways to share stories. So that started out as, a stage reading, but then years go by and I got a grant to devise a play with some unhoused youth here in Chicago, which is a community I volunteer with quite often. And then there was a couple other grants, a grant to do the portrait exhibit across Kentucky, my home state. And that was really nice and cathartic because not only was I hearing all these stories from people who had similar upbringings, right? But I got to travel across the state with my sister as an adult and just have me and her time for a while in the car. And that was really amazing. There was, quite a few different iterations that have been grant funded. There's a grant funded project coming out soon next year, which has evolved a million different ways, but has turned into an e-magazine that will be released next year once I get everything together. That will highlight specifically Black coming out stories. So I'm really excited about that because that's obviously stories that we don't hear that often. So I think those are some of the really cool ones that I've done. And it's been a really amazing journey to really just kind of collect these. And the portrait exhibit, going back to that, toured across to a different town in Kentucky each month of 2020 until, of course, March came along and shut that down. But we were in Paducah, which is a very small southern town in Kentucky. We were the first exhibit at their brand new LGBTQ Welcome Center at the time, and things like that. And then we collected a lot of the stories at my hometown's first ever Pride Festival. And that was really, once again, cathartic, especially we just put out note cards. My sister took portraits for the exhibit, and then I collected stories, but then some people just wanted to share their stories in that moment and not be interviewed later. So we had note cards out that later I got to read because I was so busy at the booth that I recorded me and my sister reading these stories, and I'm bawling my eyes out. Like, it's like uncontrollable. Can't even read them because I totally understood where these people were coming from. I mean, talking ugly cry, and the bravery of these young people, like especially being so young to share their stories, high school students and things, when I wasn't even able to figure myself out until after that. So it was really brave and amazing to hear those stories, and really keeps pushing me to continue collecting them. Yeah.
I love that. That is so cool. I'm so glad you guys did that, and I can't wait to see a little more of it. We'll give your website at the end. You got some great examples there. Luke, let's go on to things that are happening now. I mean, now you've won this competition, been working in restaurants with other people forever. You're going on to your own endeavor now. Talk about that. I think it's the most
Yes.
excellent concept. I'm sure it's been done before, but I've never heard of it before. Talk about what's coming up for you.
Yeah.
So now I am in the process of launching high-end bakery edibles. It's cannabis-infused French patisserie, and super excited about how we're approaching it. I'm trying to, I don't want to give too much away because we are still working on getting the licensing, and New York is going to be a very competitive market. So my idea, I'm not sharing it, but
Right.
I'm really excited. I've got an amazing team with me. I've got one of the best cannabis lawyers in the city, and I've got a great real estate team. I'm really excited to start looking for our actual flagship, gorgeous little jewel box of a espresso lounge and bakery. And yeah, we're going to be doing wholesale. We're going to be doing delivery within the city. So wholesale through all the licensed dispensaries. It's really super exciting. We just got, don't congratulate because nothing is signed yet, but we did just send out our contracts for our first big commitment. So now we're officially, we're doing it. And so
Yeah.
I've been building the business plan with my business partner, Zachary Barnett, for the last 2 years. We both went full time for ourselves just recently.
Tell Zach I said hey.
Yeah. Johnny got a crush on my baby part.
Maybe a little. Now he's gonna find out. But
I like it.
And I'm also always getting late night calls with this endeavor, and like, hey, oh my God, I'm stressed out. And let me tell you what, I hate cooking. Like, I am a foodie too. I love to eat, but I do not like being in the kitchen. If I'm in the kitchen, I'm probably making drinks or sitting off to the side, being out of the way, because I I despise it. So let me tell you, but it was, and I can attest to how delicious Luke's treats are, but like, watching him in the Spring Break Championship, let me tell you, once again, even watching a show about cooking, first of all, just makes me hungry. And I hate being in the kitchen. So then I'm like, oh, I'm hungry and I don't even want to go in the kitchen now. So let me order something and spend money. Yeah, so definitely it's kind of stressful watching him in that, and also watching him like compete and drive me crazy. Yeah.
That's why you guys are sexy and svelte, and I'm like 300 pounds because I watch these all the time and I eat the entire. It's like, oh man, that'd be great to have some brownies while I'm watching this, and I'll go cook some
Right.
brownies because I'm like, I want to be foodie, but it's
And then don't be mad at me, but I definitely fast forward through a lot of bits that I was like, oh, I don't want to watch cooking. Just get me back to the drama, you know?
As long as you stop at the good spots.
There you go.
Exactly,
There
I
you
did.
go.
Yeah. I mean, I will say the good thing about when you're in the kitchen all the time, I think we all saw like our moms cooking all day and then like not eating. So it was kind of the same thing of like when I'm
Right.
around, I'm like I'm eating all day, but I'm like tasting and nibbling, and then by the time it's done, like not actually eating a full dessert, but I can still fuck up some ice cream any day. But it's also like I'm running around the whole time, and a lot of times the pastry department like downstairs in a corner, or like one restaurant I was at, the walk-in and my office were in the basement floor. The dining room was on the main floor. My pastry production kitchen was on the second floor, and my pastry freezer was on the roof. So like, and I live in New York, so I'm walking everywhere, and I live on a fifth floor walk up. So, but not being in a kitchen and being at a computer all day for the first time in my career, it's
A little more
now
challenging.
now I have to put it, now I have to put in work. So I'm
Time.
balancing it out.
There you
But
go. Hit that gym in between exciting sessions there. Well, I think it's the greatest name in the history of a bakery
Yes.
and coffee shop. I think it's an amazing name. I'm so excited, looking forward to it. And we have medical marijuana in Ohio, so maybe we can ship to me. Fingers crossed. Or 6.5 hour drive either way. I'll go.
no, I
Have
still
to.
visit my family, so.
I love it. And Jonathan, talk about your projects here. You're now back into your acting and your music. Talk about what's kind of hitting your hot button these days.
Yeah. Also still just kind of working in the community with the work that I do. I too just recently launched a business with my business partner, Marvin Osby, here in Chicago. I finished grad school last year. I went back after, once again, almost more than 20 years. And was like, what am I doing? And then kind of had an entrepreneurial focus in there, and went to my business partner and I was like, so we've been producing shows together for we launched Making Art Your Opportunity, which is a multidisciplinary production company where we do events and shows and concerts and things. And his background's in music, my background's theater and events. So it's really been great. We just finished our summer series here at one of the local restaurants that we like to partner with, and it was Drag to the Future. So we started in the 70s and ended with Y2K. And so they just booked us again for next month for a Halloween show on October 12th. So we're excited about that. That'll be interesting. And then we have some things lined up for the future, some one-off projects, and some that will be not just, a one-time live event. They'll be, recorded events. So those are down the line, but quite a ways down the line at the moment. And then we just had our 7th annual bride brunch, which is a charity brunch where we dress up as brides and get married to the cause. So we were really excited for that, and it went really well. And every year it elevates, so we're excited. And it's all about community. And can I share this little story? So at our last summer series event, we had these people that had come, these audience members that had come to all 4 of the summer series. And at the end, they came up to us behind the stage and was like, hey, we made this bouquet of flowers for you because they're launching a floral business. And I was really excited to hear them say that. But they gave us this bouquet and explained to us that, it's not just like a break a leg bouquet. It was, this is for all the work that you do in the community. And that's really part of our mission in our company. Even though we're not nonprofit, we still, have a mission to help out the community. And when he said that, I literally had to go outside and cry a little bit, because I was like, not only am I doing I left you a really like sappy
I got a
voicemail.
I listened to it the next day. It's like bawling into the phone, telling me this story. So then, of course, the next day I was like, I am keeping that voicemail forever. And he was like, wait, which one? What did I say?
Right. Yeah, so it just meant a
Sometimes
lot
we
because,
have to double check what messages we left.
right,
But
especially because it'll take him 3 weeks just to listen to one. So,
Oh.
girl, I want to throw this at you, but I'd actually be throwing it at you. So.
right, exactly. You'll have to throw it
Shade,
to me when we see
virtual
each other.
shade. I
But
love
it was
it.
just really like heartwarming to know, like, not only am I doing this business that I set out
Yep.
to do, but we are fulfilling the mission that we set out to do, which was really important to me.
I love that. I
And
also want to
that's
say
my next
that's
question. I love that. I mean, talk about the importance of having LGBTQ representation in the food industry and the music and theater industry for everyone coming up. I mean, how do you try to incorporate that, if at all, into your business model, Luke?
well, I've actually got a huge social equity platform that I'm standing on. I mean, my company is gay owned. Both Zachary and I are gay, but within New York State, they have been trying to create a social equity platform for the cannabis industry. So many people of color were disproportionately incarcerated for
Mm-hmm.
cannabis crimes, and now you've got people making tons and tons of money off of a product, off a plant that other people were being put into prison for.
Mm-hmm.
And so we were like, on one hand, we could go after a license as a minority, but we decided to not. Like, I believe enough in my product and my business that I'm gonna get my license. I don't need to go by being an LGBT company. That said, I'm also never gonna back down or deny that that's part of who I am. But like I'm sure like a big part of what I want to do is collaborations with other chefs and other artists. And I've learned over the last, especially during Spring Baking Championship, that I love storytelling and that I put a lot of my heart into what I do. And so being able to tell my story and connect people with food, with cannabis, that's always going to be a part of it. But this whole like entrepreneurial vendetta that I have now that I've never like, I don't know, that's all new to me. And for a while trying to build this company, I got, it's hard. And you're telling your story, you're saying why you want to do things, asking people to give you their trust and their money over and over and over again, and being told no or like not yet. And it's like I had to stop and be like, why am I doing this? Like, and instead of just doing it every day, it was like finally started writing it down again. And Johnny is a big journaler, and I had
Mm-hmm.
never been. Recently, I've started journaling, and it was kind of this reminder of like, I have two books literally. One says, "Why the fuck am I doing this?" and the other one says, "Who the fuck is Luke?" And so and it was this reminder of like, I grew up in a faith that was, they were called the Brethren Church. It was about fellowship, brotherhood. We would help out at soup kitchens, and we would go on mission trips and like help rebuild or paint schools. And growing up having access to fresh food from the farm and then moving to New York, that farm to table aspect has been part of my life as a chef my entire career. I've made it a point to build relationships with farmers upstate. And now I'm taking all of those things and putting them into, yes, it's a fun cannabis infused French patisserie, but I'm building a network of cannabis growers upstate, building a network of these small farms that are trying to make ends meet. The Farm Bill of 2018 made half able to grow, and now they're able to grow cannabis. Building a network just like I have for my produce, but with cannabis, to create a product that then can connect farm to table in the cannabis world. To also work with an organization like the Fortune Society, which works with people that have been incarcerated to reintegrate them into the workforce. So having the ability to work with a company that has already kind of vetted and trained, there are programs in the city that actually have like a culinary training for those people. So then to be able to bring them into the workforce for us. And then, like I said earlier, I wouldn't have been able to go to culinary school without a work study program. So I've specifically set aside 10% of my profits once we start making money. It's already in the business plan. It's budgeted out. 10% gets held every year. 5% goes into a profit share, a performance-based profit share to our employees. And the other 5% is a scholarship program for anything in the culinary industry, whether it's culinary management or actually culinary school. And of course, and that's open to any of our employees, but also just open to the community. So it's, of course, if somebody gets it, I would love for you to go to school, come back and keep working for us and like make us even better. But that's not the point. So it's just, that's reminding myself why I'm doing it has breathed the fire.
I don't think you told me about that.
Yeah.
I don't think you told me about that. I love that. Yeah.
That is amazing. I mean, authenticity is thrown around as a buzzword so much. That's one of the things I kind of enjoyed about getting to know you on the show and getting to know Jonathan the time here is being authentic to yourselves, whether it be in your personal life with your husband or in your business life when you're trying to get back to me. I think that's so important. Jonathan, I mean, music and entertainment industry has always been very open and receptive to the LGBTQ community. But just like you said, working all these events and trying to be honest and true to yourself, it's got to be kind of nice to see this. It kind of dovetails perfectly into your coming out stories and your project, 2020 project, things like
actually,
that, right?
Yeah, part of our mission actually is leading with authenticity and building community, like I said. So it definitely is. But, you know, I think it's also, yes, you know, the music and entertainment industry has been a little more open to the LGBTQ plus community. However, we're taking our shows and putting them into non-traditionally like LGBTQ spaces. Like one of, you know, a lot of the restaurants we go to are, because we do a lot of shows at restaurants and bars and things. And a lot of those aren't known as LGBTQ plus spaces. And so we're coming in there and creating that safe space because we still know those people are still clients of those spaces. It's just not, you know, advertised as that kind of space. So that's really important to us.
That is awesome. All right, we have to start wrapping it up, guys. I want to finish up. Last question. I mean, it's just been a celebration of your guys' friendship on here today. Talk about what your guys' advice is for building these long-lasting friendships. I mean, like I said, Luke, you've been hustling your bunnies forever, going to school, doing these competitions, starting your own business. Jonathan, you've been doing all this other stuff through your work and through trying to build up relationships. How are you able to maintain a friendship and lead such busy lives? What suggestions do you have to keep those friendships going?
I think there's a lot of just no judgment and like there's no timeline. There's no timeline on a friendship. It's like if you're busy, I know you're busy because you are working towards your dreams and toward like sometimes we've gone months without talking. Not often, but it's happened. It's like,
I mean, we'll message, but
yeah, it'll be a text message or a phone tag. But then we'll finally get in touch with each other, and then like I said, that doesn't happen often, but it's happened, and it's like I don't think we've never really had an argument.
I don't think so. Yeah. No, and I think that comes from, like you said, the no judgment, because we've both been through a lot, and even early on, I think even, you know, we had to tell ourselves that. Luke, I don't know if you know you remember this when we became roommates sophomore year of undergrad. Somebody had drawn a picture and posted it on our dorm room door, and it was imitating the Trix rabbit, the cereal rabbit, and it said, "Silly faggots, dicks are for chicks." And yeah, that's what I'm telling you, like what we had to go through back in our time and place, you know what I'm saying? Not that people don't still today, especially even in Kentucky, but I think that really kind of set a tone early on of like how we interact with each other and how we both interacted differently and reacted differently to this message on our wall, but remembering that, like you said, I had already started going through some of that, and you were just coming into that, and we had to meet each other where we were at and understand, and be there for each other, with no judgment, but also with support and encouragement. So I think that's exactly how we've left it.
I want to say, like, earlier I mentioned when I did come out of the closet, my dad and my stepmother kicked me out, but like Johnny have said, I'm trying to get my dad and my stepmom to actually take part in cleaning closets because, we've said, like, it took me 18 years to even figure out that was in the world of possibility and to voice it. So it took me 18 years to figure it out and be okay with myself enough to say it. Sometimes people are going to need a little more than a day to, some people, it's not a problem. My mother, it was like, she was literally waiting for me to say it.
Yeah,
but
I love her. I stayed with your mom and aunt in Atlanta last year.
It's like, that's not my place. But now my dad and my stepmother and I, like, they are an active part of my life. My whole family's back in, and I guess that's my words to anybody out there that's going through that. I was never homeless because of being kicked out. I had a safety and a support group, but definitely, like, being able to give people time and realizing that we're all going through our own things. I think that's one of the things with Johnny's and my relationship. Like, everybody's going through their own journey, and meeting people where they're at when they're there, and just being able to listen. And even sometimes it's like, Johnny, sometimes I'll go in and want to rant about whatever I'm going through, and it's like, I may know that he's already going through something, and it's like, are you at a space to listen? Like, or not? Because sometimes it's like, I can't take on anymore.
Or sometimes literally I call Luke and I'm like, I'm going through some shit right now, and I need you just to talk to me about anything else other than what's going on in my life. Like, sometimes I'm like, tell me about your accomplishments. Tell me about your problems. I need to know I'm not the only one with problems right now.
I love that. So well said, guys. I love both of those points. We got to wrap it up here. Do me a favor, Luke. Let everyone know where they can find you on social media. You have a great website. The pictures of your desserts are absolutely amazing. So give everyone your website and your social media handle.
All right. So my social media, I've got two. LD Pastry is my pastry forward one. That basically chronicles up till now in all of my restaurant life. And then High End Bakery Edibles is from now forward. So that's everything that I'm doing with the infusions at the patisserie. You can find me at Deardurff.com. I need to be better doing my blog, but that website needs to be updated. And then High End Bakery Central, highendcentral.com.
I love it. All right, and Jonathan, where can they find you these days? What's the best place to look you up? Look at your closet organization and your new one.
Yeah, so cleaningclosets.org. You can find out about the latest info about cleaning closets there and what's coming up. And then for Making Art Your Opportunity, it's Mayo LLC.today, not .com, .today, or Mayo Today on Instagram. And those will be the places you can find our most updated information. Yeah.
I love it. Well, Jonathan, Luke, thanks for being on the Left of Str8 show. Great getting to know you guys. We'll have to have you back often because you guys will have lots of projects going on. I can't wait for you to open up your shop, Luke. And Jonathan, we got to come see one of your events sometimes.
Yes, definitely.
Thanks, guys.
And Scott, thank you for the work that you do. Yes.
Well, thank you, sir. I appreciate it. All right, stay on the line, guys. We're going to have 5 questions with Luke and Jonathan next Tuesday, so be sure to look for that. You're listening to the Left of Str8 show, where we always have great interviews with fantastic personalities. And today, Jonathan and Luke, thanks so much for being part of the show. Guys, we'll see you next week. Have a great day. Bye-bye.
Thanks for listening to The Left of Str8 Show. Be sure to subscribe on your favorite podcast distributor, and please give us a 5-star rating so more listeners can find us. You can follow us on social media, and be sure to check out our website, www.leftofstraightradio.com, for contests and other news and information. See you next week.